Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Nerd Herd Comic Book Club. Your number one stop for stellar reviews of volumes, arcs, or stories that us or yourselves choose. You can find us live every Wednesday on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch, and the replay on all podcast networks. Take a seat, get yourselves and your opinions ready, as it's time to join the herd. But first, please put your hands together for your hosts, Shane, Phil, Scott, and Martin, as they kick off this week's discussion.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Nerd Herd Comic Book Club. My name is Scott and I'm joined by the usual posse, if that's what we can call ourselves. We got Martin up here.
Even though?
We got Phil over there.
What's up, nerds?
We got Shane by there.
Ahoy hoy.
And that's us. This week we are talking about a book that's very dear and close to my heart, Locke Key, Volume 2, entitled Head Games, published by IDW in 2009, and this is covering 1 to 6. You go, oh wait, Scott, you've made a mistake. It's actually 7 to 12. No, it's 1 to 6. Okay. I don't know why they've done it, but every volume for Locke Key is another, issue 1 to 6. So this is volume 2, Head Games 1 to 6. Written by the fantastic Joe Hill, art by Gabriel Rodriguez, colors by Jay Photos, letters by Robbie Robbins as well. Before we go ahead and say hi to everyone, I'll let you know what this book was about. So even though it's a new issue 1 to 6, it still carries on from the last events of the book. But this story really focuses on a new key that Bode finds called the Head Key. It allows the characters to open up their heads so everyone around them can peer into them. They can see their memories, see their feelings and emotions in their heads, and they discover that they can put things inside their heads to learn more information, or they can take things out to forget things such as particular memories and certain emotions as well. But our evil bad guy, Zack, he's still around. He's doing the dirty. He is killing people off that recognize him. He is, twisting and manipulating Ellie. He's slithering his way into the Key family and really taking advantage of them. It's a very compelling story. I really enjoyed it. This is my second time reading it. Can you tell? Really, really enjoed it. Only one person in the chat so far. We've got more people watching. We know you're there. Say hi. Liam is there. He's saying howdy ho. How you doing, buddy? Thank you for joining. So this is our second installment of Sequels Month this month, and I'm really happy it's this. But please, I want to start off on a high potentially. I know Shane loves this series, so I want to start off with Shane, please. What did you think? Please.
I loved it. You can't help but love this whole story. The universe that's been created, the magic, the characters. I love it all. I was a fan of the show before I read this, so I have prior knowledge of events, I'm guessing, that were taken from the book, because quite a lot of this does happen in both the TV show and the book. But this volume, I was a bit skeptical at the beginning. The story about Mr. Redgrave, Ridgway. Yeah, it was this brand new character thrown into it. I was kind of like, why do I care? Why should I care? And then I realized he was put there as a stepping stone for Dodge to show just how evil he is and how long he's been around. But yeah, what's not to love about this book? The art is fantastic. The characters are great. Bode is just as annoying as he is in the TV show, so they nailed that. That little kid just needs a slap every time I see him.
Yep.
And I thought it was really interesting the way you look into people's heads, because in the TV show it's a door, so you put the key in and a door appears, and you are like an astral projection form of yourself, and you can go through that door and see all your memories. You can put things in, take things out, the same. but I thought it was quite interesting the way the head just opens, and when you look in, the person whose head it is joins you to have a look.
Yeah.
I was confused at first until they mentioned it in the book, because Bode's there looking into his own head, and I was like, where'd he come from? But yeah, it's super fun, so entertaining, so dark.
Well, that's really interesting, because I haven't watched the show based on the fact that I hated episode 1. But yeah, that's really interesting to see how that was for me when I found out they were making it into a show. And I was like, I thought about the head key pretty much straight away. I was like, oh, that's going to be so cool seeing that as like a live action, I guess, with CGI on it and stuff. But they didn't copy the book. They just did their own thing.
Yeah, I think in the TV show it works well, because when they go through the door, because the doors are different for everyone, because everyone's brain is different.
Yeah.
But everyone's memories are catalogued differently. So like someone who's like really anal and like meticulous, their memories will be like a library. So everything's perfectly placed,
organized.
So you know where everything is, and it's all organized. And if someone's a bit hectic, you go in there and it's just like a messy apartment, and you just have to find things.
Right.
So I think they did that really well in the TV show. But I did enjoy this, looking into someone's skull. I mean, my page pick is when Bode first opens his head and the look on people's faces, because it's just fantastic.
I'm looking forward to seeing that later. Phil?
I mean, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. This is a very Stephen King-esque story, and which I really enjoyed. I think definitely. I mean, I read both volumes today together as one. You know, sometimes we've discussed if you're reading volumes on its own without the kind of, like, how do you put this? Like, you're into that mindset of, you know, it's like last week with Deadly Class, I read all 3 at the one go, and I definitely feel like you enjoy it more. So that's why I wanted to read both volumes again. I do think volume 1 was slightly better, but this was still pretty great. I'm a big fan of it. I quite like Joe. Was it Ridgway? Is that his name? Or
yeah.
I thought I liked him. I was sad about him. And then it kind of like the intensity picks up at the end with, is it Ellie, who's his aunt or previous love, but everyone thinks that, you know, he's the aunt of Zack or whatever, and it just kicks on, like the intensity, and I really like it. And I like the use of the key. And to be fair, the TV show I was a fan at the time, at least season 1. But after reading these 2 volumes again today, like, I just think that's so far superior than the TV show. No, like, I enjoyed it a lot more. So yeah, kudos. I do feel like it stretched on longer than it needed to at parts in the middle. It's kind of it's like Deadly Class last week. They had a good start, really good end. Some stuff in the middle was okay, but maybe we could have had a little bit more, done slightly differently, but it was all enjoyable. I'll say that.
There's only 3 issues in the middle. You had a prologue and an epilogue, and then 3 issues.
Yeah, I had the opposite issue. I feel like you could have dropped issues 1 and 6. Like, I didn't need to see Mr. Ridgway, really. I mean, I know why he's there, but you didn't really need... Ridgway, yeah. You didn't really need to see him just to show how evil Dodge is. And you didn't need the part at the end with... Ellie. Ellie.
Yeah.
Ellie. I don't know why I can't remember her name. That's so terrible. But Ellie, you didn't need to see her memory of her with her mum. It was just extra. So for me, the beginning and the end were not needed. I felt the middle part was the star of this.
See, I found the middle part, again, enjoyable. I'm not criticizing it. It's just like the kind of Bode having the key and showing his brother and sister, then getting their friends around. It just took maybe longer than it needed to, but I still enjoyed it. But I did enjoy the Ellie stuff of killing her mom. Like, that was all like part to show how Dodge was in her head, you know. And now, Rufus, by the way, her son, is fantastic. Like, he's brilliant. I love him. Like, this way, he's not quite right in the head or whatever, and he's talking to his toy soldiers, and he's like in the military, but he's fantastic. I want more of him, but then it wouldn't be the same. But no, I just think he has all these elements, Joe Hill, that add up to a really good story. And yeah, like I say, Stephen King-esque. I've never read much Joe Hill stuff. Certainly not his novels. I've read the kind of DC stuff he's done. But if his work's like this, I'd want to read more.
Good. Martin?
Well, this is my first experience of Locke Key in general. Same as every other sequels month so far. I've had to double read. But yeah, I really did enjoy it. I do agree with Phil. The first volume, I think, was a little bit stronger than this one. And I do agree. The bit at the end of this volume was a little bit, I could have done without it being as long. But overall, I loved it. This is what I want from an indie title. These are the indie titles I want to read. The artwork was fantastic. It just suited the whole style of the story and the characters. I just want to know more. I felt like I'm ready for volume 3 now. So,
yeah, yes. Speaking of the collected stuff, you can get this book collected in a lovely, lovely master edition. There are 3 of them. They collect 2 volumes in each. So, book 1 is volume 1 and 2. Book 2, 3, and 4, and so on. There's also an omnibus of the Locke and Key story as well, if you wanted to just have it all in one big book. The trades are awesome. You can get a slipcase edition, which I did have, but then sold it when I bought the master editions. But yeah, it is a fantastic book to own in any of the collected editions that they have. Definitely.
You can see why it's had so many collected editions.
Oh, yeah.
Just off the quality alone.
And to kind of rail off a little bit, this story is only 36 issues long, but there are still more spin-off stories. They're like between 1 and 3 issues long, depending on the type of story that it is. And they're still coming out now and again, but they're collected in hardcovers as well. I think the most recent one was a Sandman crossover.
But that's usually frustrating. Like, they're coming out, but they're not the same size. And for collectors like ourselves, we want things to match on the shelf.
Yeah.
And hopefully they bring them out in oversized at some point, and then I'll buy them. But until
the only way you'll get them in oversized at the moment is if you bought the French version. They have the master edition style, but only in French for the spin-off stories.
Yeah, I'm not going to learn French just to read it.
That's a hard pass.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go on to some of the arty stuff then. First of all, one thing I only ever noticed in a Locke and Key story, and I've only ever seen it in a Locke and Key story, but maybe you guys have read more, so maybe you can tell me. I love the fact that the chapter titles and like the credits of each issue are kind of drawn into the book, if you know what I mean. So like the intermission at the start, all of the, Joe Hill, Gabriel Rodriguez and stuff like that, they were kind of like etched into the tree that Ridgway was sitting against. Issue 1, it's all like written on the bricks of the walls, stuff like that. And it's just there's no like glaringly chapter 1, Joe Hill, blah, blah, blah. It's just subtly just added in and kind of worked into the art of that page.
It's like it is fairly common, but still not quite common. That when you do see it, you really appreciate it. Like, yeah, that's cool. I suppose you're right with like Marvel or DC. They may just slap a big banner on to say Tom Kane or something, whatever. But I like that's done here. Yeah, I agree. Like I say, it does get done quite often, but you appreciate it when you do see it, because you maybe don't see it as often as you think we should see it.
You used to see it a lot more in the 2000s. Your Young Justice, your Peter David Supergirls, things like that.
But it is cool.
It's more unique. It
shows more care, doesn't it?
Yeah. You can say there's been thought gone into it. Anyone can just slap text over the top of the image.
And the thing is, too, though, like the one you mentioned about the etched to the tree, they were having fun with it. They were like, Joe Hill was here. I can't remember what the slogan was for the artist, and it was like Gabriel Rodriguez and such rule or something like that. And I can't remember exactly, but like they just have a bit of fun with it, But no, I think the art overall. Again, when you watch the TV show first and then you see the art, it doesn't really kind of match or something. Like Tyler, for example, he looks like a big guy, strong jaw, whatever else. But I was like, no, that's almost like a thug. But he looks like he could be a thug. We're in the show,
like a rugby player.
Yeah, like a big brute, like a rugger. Isn't that right? and he the art kind of reminds me of The Boys slightly.
Yes.
That kind of style of The Boys art that we had earlier this season. And I do like it. I prefer it here than The Boys, but I do like this style. It's quite crooked and quite weird and a bit dark in places too. Yeah, I liked it. Big
But it
fan.
works really well.
Yeah, it works really well.
And very
Facial
detailed as
expressions are
well.
amazing.
Mm.
Yeah.
Oh, the faces are good. Faces are great.
Mm.
Yeah.
Anything notable from you guys for the art then?
Just
You're on
how
the spot.
well, because overall it's just so good. But I love the magic aspect, the way the magic is done.
Mm.
I enjoy uniqueness to magic because everyone can do a line of magic, or just some random colors on a page. But when they go to the trouble of actually, like I said, when you're looking inside Bode's head and you can see all the memories and the way it's laid out and the way if you zoom in, and obviously I read this digitally, so I was able to zoom into his memories, and there's like he's flying around as a superhero and there's all these tiny little details in there, but they're all done so well. Like, it's all placed perfectly for, what is he, like 8, 9? Like for a 9-year-old's brain, that's pretty much how you'd imagine it to be. It's like comic books, mum, like magic, fun, schoolwork, monsters. It was all in there.
Yeah, just a classic kid. But yeah, it's cool that you go into everyone's heads eventually, and you all see, you see a different style of thing for each person. You actually see into, what's their sister's name?
Kinsey.
Kinsey.
Do we see into her? Yeah, we do see into her head as well, don't we?
Hers is a bit more dark.
Yeah. But yeah, it's so great. It's Ellie's head we don't see into.
Yeah.
And he goes into her head later on in like the last but one issue, I think.
Yeah, he just takes out Dodge, doesn't he?
Yeah. Maybe go on.
Do you know the one thing I didn't like about the art? Zack or Luke. I just don't like him. I don't like how he looks. Do you know what I mean? It's like in volume 1, obviously it was a girl in a dress. It's like, yeah, she looks quite cool. And then obviously now it's a boy with short hair and a piercing. He just looks like someone I just wouldn't like.
He looks like Luke Perry from 90210.
He does slightly, yeah. He does look like Luke Perry. I just don't like it. I want him to look a bit more. How do I put this? Like more kind of threatening. Maybe that's the whole point, that he isn't that threatening by looks now. But I prefer him to be a bit more threatening. I don't know. I just don't like his black hair. I don't like his hairstyle. I don't like his lip ring. I don't like his vibe. Don't like him.
You're probably supposed to like him. He's the bad guy.
Probably for a reason, yeah.
Some bad guys can look really cool. He doesn't.
I'm glad for that. He's for me, he's a bit more than a bad guy. He's absolutely twisted and just mental and just gone in the head, and he'll just do anything to get what he wants.
What is his true form, though? Because in Ellie's head, it was Dodge the girl. Remember in the jar as well, break emergency, and then obviously the flashbacks, whatever, from whenever Rendell was a teenager, there was a boy called Luke. So is Luke. He Luke? Is Luke the bad guy? And obviously, whatever he's become later down the line.
You'll have to read on, mate.
Okay.
Or watch the Netflix show. It's all explained.
No,
because I do agree. He looks more menacing as Dodge. He's got this like teenage slasher look about him now, and it just I didn't get that menacing vibe. I got that I've just got to go and kill everybody that knows about me, sort of thing. It's just like
Dodge or Echo was definitely more threatening looking. Remember that scene whenever Bode turned his back on the well and she came out of the well and like bright white eyes, like that was frightening. And I think that's what this volume kind of misses. It didn't have that kind of intense horror, if you know what I'm trying to say, like that kind of suspensefulness or whatever. And I think it's because I just didn't take to the look of Luke or Zack, whatever his name is.
Right. Should we get into our pages?
Yeah.
get into our pages, shall we? Just because we're hyping in the art up so much, I just want to see some more. Okie doke. Right, let's do it. So, who are we gonna go for first? Let's do the same order that we spoke in, right? So we'll go for Shane first. Here we go.
Yeah, so I picked the page for the bottom panel. I just love the facial expressions on Tyler and Kinsey. Like Bode's like, look, I've got something to show you. Watch this, and he sticks the key in and he opens it, and we haven't seen it yet. We don't see till the next page what he's actually done.
Yeah.
But the look on their face, like you can imagine, he's literally just like turned himself inside out, and he's just like, like just exploded in front of them. And it's just fantastic. The facial expressions throughout both volumes, because volume 1, I think I really enjoyed the facial expressions when Bode went through the ghost door.
Yeah.
And he just drops and he's like, I really appreciate that much detail in the face.
They're really good at their facial expressions all the way through.
Tells you exactly what you need to know is happening in that situation, because there's no words. You don't need the words. Their faces tell you everything.
You get the sound effect, that tack of the key turning, and something's happened, and then you just see that reaction, and it's just
like, what happens? Like, does it disappear, or does it like flip backwards? Like, what? How does it happen?
Like a bike helmet.
Yeah.
We'll never know. We'll never know. But yeah, it's cool that you haven't chosen like one of the cool splash pages or whatever. It's just you've gone for just that one panel just for their facial expressions, and yeah. It's great. Yeah. Really good.
I saw that. It had to be my page.
Yeah. Philly boy, you're next.
Well, the reason why, again, facial expressions, the horror on Kinsey and Tyler. But again, there's a page before this where Bode's trying to look into his head again. Where here he's like right there, front and center, looking into his own head. Like that's, again, Stephen King-esque freaky, if you know what I mean. So Joe Hill's obviously following that kind of trend where he's doing things that just make the reader think that is weird, that you can look into your own head. Yeah. And that's why I like it. And like I say, throughout the whole volume, I mean, there's plenty of pages you can pick from for plenty of different reasons. I can't fault the art at all. But again, faces, the horror, the shock, but it's just like him looking like, and it's a perfect cut as well. It's not like it's like covered in blood or you see bits of brain or it's uneven. It's like a perfect bowl cut, and he's just
Hannibal Lecter would be proud.
Yeah, exactly. It's cool and creepy at the same time.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, such a cool concept to think about as well. Imagine looking into your own head, but actually looking yourself, into yourself.
It's funny too that his mom, obviously, she has her own kind of thing going on, but
yeah,
didn't even notice. She's like, "Oh, that's nice, son," or whatever she said. Like, doesn't
cool. Yeah, nice. Oh no, the fish sticks are burning, and that was it. Just carried on.
See, I feel like she knows about it.
I think she knew about it, but adults don't remember.
Yeah, adults forget about magic, and then they can't see it.
Damn it. Okay, Martin.
I went for the splash page. I couldn't help myself. The amount of detail in this was just so good. I couldn't help but just spend a little bit of extra time on this page. Obviously, this is actually seen inside his head now, and going back looking at his memories. And I think this was the most fun of all the inside of the mind images that we saw. So
totally.
So I went for this one. I just thought it was stunning for the detail.
I love the Space Invaders, the top right.
Yeah, I like his mum's picture in the love heart frame. I think that's really sweet.
See,
I like his representation of his siblings and him on the bottom right corner. So you got Tyler is like this grumpy caveman. Kinsey is Kinsey. Sorry, she's like I don't know. I assume like the lion from the Wizard of Oz. That's what I kind of got from that. And then he's like, a little TNT stick, just ready to blow at any moment. Like,
See, what I was
got a couple of keys in there as well.
Yeah, I was looking for what do you call those things? Like Marvel do them. What do you call them? The fine things, the
Easter eggs.
Easter eggs, yeah. Like, also there are plenty, but I mean, like things that are relevant to the story that's happened before, or kind of give you clues going forward. And obviously, maybe there are stuff that we don't understand what it means, for example. But maybe we'll do at some point.
Speaking of like Easter eggs and looking for keys and stuff like that, in chapter 1, so what's that? Issue 2 of this story, there are, because I've read the whole thing, I know what the doors are. I know where they are and what they look like. So it's like I go, "Ooh, there's that door. Ooh, there's this door." But I know it's not going to happen. Nothing's going to happen yet. But it's cool to come back to this and recognize those. It's very
When
cool.
Bode's trying out the key, I recognise those doors as well from the TV show.
Yeah.
So
TV shows
have you read the entire story, Scott?
Yeah.
Nice.
I can't not, mate. It's such a fantastic thing. It's something I just couldn't put down as soon as I got to it. Okay, my page. Not a head opening related one, still kind of related to the heads, but this is where they take out the fear and the sadness emotion out of Kinsey's head. But I just love the design of these, and I love the fact that they're in a glass bottle, and their speech bubbles have been drawn inside the glass bottle as well. You kind of see that kind of like, what's it called, distortion or disorientation with the reflection. You know what I'm trying to say? Everything just gets a bit morphed. I thought it was brilliant, and just how they look. You know, the sadness emotion, dressed in black, a bouquet of flowers, and a massive like tap on her back, and she's just like, you know, just constantly crying, and the fear is like black and jagged and a really long gross tongue, and has got like and for clothes she's wearing newspapers with he's wearing newspapers with like headlines, like doom and gloom type of headlines and all that kind of stuff, and it's so cool. Really enjoyed that.
Yeah. Totally different to how they did it in the TV show. Kinsey actually has to fight her fear and kill her fear and bury her in the woods.
Yeah, I loved it. I love this. It's really good.
I can just see Scott just like dismissing any talk.
I just switch off. I just take my headphones out. Yeah,
you can see it in his face. Just shut down, reboot.
Sorry. Talk about the book now, are we? Okay, let's go back. I just wanted to show off a quick little bonus page as well, talking about like, you know, Easter eggs and stuff like that to let you know what's coming up in the future. But here is like the scene where they kind of talk about the play that was it Tyler and Kinsey and Bode's dad and Luke and stuff like that they did when they were kids, and it was like the best play they've ever seen. I don't know, I can't remember how many keys you see in volume 1, but in this picture alone there's probably about 5 or 6 keys going on at the same time.
I can name like 4 of them.
Yeah, but again, it's really cool for like if you're reading this for the first time and you see this and it's a really great page, but then coming back to it, knowing about all these other keys, and you're going, cool, so that bit is from the use of that key, and then this from that key and stuff like that, and it's great. Really love it. We got some comments. So we've got one from Lee, says the smash. Well, first of all, he said that he forgot to send a page in, but then retconned that by saying, Scott chose my page. But he says the smash that's written on that bottle is foreshadowing the breaking of the picture frame a few pages later, as well as being reference to how Echo escaped, as we discover in the epilogue. It's a really good bit of observation there. Thank you. Nice. Cool. Okay. I've still got loads more notes about the art, but I think we're half hour in. I think we should talk about a bit more about the story, and maybe I can just weasel some arty bits into there as well. But Martin, do you want to say anything particular about the story? Or
I found this really well written. I felt like coming from volume 1, it left me wanting more. So, and I didn't feel like it was it lost traction from volume 1. You know, I felt like I still went in with that same buzz going into it. I think the only part I didn't enjoy was the Zack character, the change to him. Other than that, I didn't find any fault with the main cast, with any of the additional, even the little story at the start with the teacher. I actually didn't mind that. I enjoyed that. I thought it built a little extra to it. but no, it was my biggest issue with this. Unfortunately, is the change to Zack from Dodge.
Yeah.
I think kind of carrying on from Volume 1 as well. And again, when you read them all, like Martin has for the first time, when I read Volume 1 again today, I took more from it. Like I could remember from the first time I read it. But Sam Lesser, who was the guy who killed their dad, was great in Volume 1. So it's like when you take him out of the book and you have to replace him with something, even though Zack or Dodge was like the one pulling the strings, it wasn't as like in your face as the whole Sam Lesser thing was. So I think Dodge was better in Volume 1 whilst controlling Sam. But in this, you kind of missed that. You're removing that because you're giving us more about the story and the key and obviously the head game and stuff. But the main crux of the story, which I'm assuming, is the stuff with Ellie. You know, that's the main. That's called head games. I'm assuming yes, is the head key, but also here's how it was used and here's how it's going to be used, whatever with Ellie. So I just think that it just took a slightly different way to continue the story forward. But you're definitely missing that Sam Lesser threatening behavior. Because if you remember, he escaped the prison cell. He got on the bus. He set the bus on fire. He blew up the boat driver. Like, he just done a lot to get to the family. Whereas here, it was just like Zack appears and he's there as their friend. Like, there's no real kind of threat yet, even though you know there is. There's no threat for the family or something. And he doesn't even want to hurt them just yet. He's biding his time. But there's nothing like happening in between.
I think.
Don't you think that's? Sorry, Scott.
I think I'm going to say the same as you. You carry on.
Don't you think it's scarier not knowing the threat is there for the family? Like, you knew Sam was coming. They kept showing that over and over again. You'd get the pages of him, like you say. But with Dodge, he's so terrifyingly calm around them, even though they've got what he wants, and he could just snap at any minute. He's so calm and collected when he's around them. He's friendly and he's nice, and they're all falling for him. You know, they welcome him into the house so much so they want to tell him about this magic key. But back in the background, we see him kill Mr. Ridgway. Just straight up, like, he tries to make it painful, but then he just does it, just kills him, gets Ellie to help him clean it up. Then he goes after Duncan to remove the memories. And he thinks Duncan's alone, so he goes, after he's finished, he goes into the kitchen and like makes himself a snack, and Duncan's boyfriend rocks up. So then he just like quite calmly tries to kill Duncan's boyfriend, who runs out into the road and gets run over anyway. And he's like, oh, well, that saved me the effort. And then he just leaves like completely calm. And I find that much more terrifying in a bad guy.
Unsettling.
I agree with you to an extent, but with those two incidents described, he didn't want to shoot Mr. Ridgway. He wanted to give him drugs. You know, and had he succeeded with that way to kill him, that would be more, threatening. And then even with Duncan, the gun jammed or whatever, the gun didn't go off, and he got run over by, the very butch-looking, homophobes. And
they're clearly not lesbian homophobes.
Yeah. So, again, he didn't die at the hands of Zack. But I just think there's things like that could be done slightly differently for me. Again, I think me and Martin are on the same page where Zack just wasn't what we kind of thought. But I do agree with what you're saying. He's biding his time, and you can feel that. And at some point, he's going to decide he's now in control and he's going to do what he needs to do. But I just feel like as a threat for this particular volume, it wasn't there from him for me.
Yeah, I think we are on the same page, Phil. I found him better as the puppet master as opposed to being the front and center villain.
Yeah,
I liked him scheming in the backgrounds and just showing a little bit of himself from the well. That scene from the well was embedded in my brain from this series. Him coming out and behind the young boy. It just that was phenomenal. And then to get a little bit more of a toned down version of him in this volume. Yes, he was sadistic. I won't take that away from him. But he was relentless in his goal. But I just personally prefer the Dodge vibe that I got.
Just the fact that, like, whenever he needed to get something done, he would just use the anywhere key, just slip into an evidence room from a police station, grab a gun, go and use it, and put it back. And I was like, that's so messed up, man.
So clever.
And yeah, and like in a way, he is scheming we are seeing that kind of puppet mastery kind of stuff still going, but we're just seeing it more. Like, you know, the Locke family still know nothing, and they still don't suspect him. And I guess for me, that's the scary part. You know, he's doing all this stuff. People that they know when they're close to, the teachers and whatever, it's happening, but they just don't have a clue why and who.
I agree. I think as well, like, he never seemed in control, in my opinion. Like, he was like, when he goes to Ellie at the start, like, oh, we need to talk, because Ridgway recognizes him, and somebody else recognized him, like, and Duncan, obviously, or was Duncan recognized him. Like, he wasn't in control of the kind of whole situation, where I think had he been in more control, that would have been scarier, you know. Yes, towards the end, whenever you've seen the stuff of Ellie, he essentially was pulling the strings with her. But I just think that's my only negative. And it's not to say I didn't enjoy it. I very much enjoyed the story. It's a great story. I'm glad I read it and do want to read on. Not just because I bought all 3 master editions. But again, I can't help but compare it to Volume 1, and this just isn't quite on the same level, but still really, really good.
Would you say it's just on a different level? Has it just moved a bit sideways?
Sideways and down one.
Right, diagonal. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'm glad though they didn't just do the families in danger again in Volume 2 thing, because the fact the Locks aren't in danger in this book for any amount of time. He's not threatening them at all at the moment, because he needs to find the Omega Key, so he needs them. So I like that it went families in danger in Volume 1. You know, Sam's coming to kill them all. They have to deal with that. This book, we're not just going to do steps 1 to 2 again. We're actually going to change it up, and we're going to make him work in the background rather than in the foreground. I appreciate that. So many books just do the same thing over and over again. And for this to do that, for me personally, I enjoy a bad guy that works in the background rather than is just there all the time. You know, Thanos, I like the Thanos in the original Marvel movies. He's in the background, but you know when he comes, he's going to be terrifying.
Yeah. I think Rufus has his number. Again, you guys have read on. I haven't. I think Rufus has got him clocked.
Why do we think Rufus doesn't have a keyhole in his neck?
That's so strange.
He's a dark horse, him. Like,
yeah.
Now, could it be one of 2 things? One, could it be because he's, he's autistic?
Yeah.
Well, he's autistic. Or could it be 2? Could it be Ellie, who did something with a different key to protect him from keys in the future when she was younger? I mean, Scott knows, so he can't say anything.
Thing is, though, I've read on and I still went, ooh, that's interesting.
Well, that doesn't happen, but that sounds good. It should have happened.
Yeah. Rufus is cool. Like, in this volume alone, like, he's just, the way he just speaks, like, the way he's understanding everything, but just speaking through his toys.
Yeah, when he tells the grandmother to put the cigarette out, but you see, right, soldier, put that cigarette out.
Yeah.
I don't like to use the word, but whenever he peed his pants, and he's like, the way he reports that he's peed his pants and went to bed, and then he has like,
there's been a leak in the barracks or something.
Yeah, so he gets called off a derogatory name or whatever. It's really stupid, but really funny. But even the fact that like Ellie was like, what was it? Like trying him to bed. It's curfew. You know, she's military speak because it controls him. He also does what I just think he's really cool. And I hope he plays a part in some way, and a big part going forward. I hope so.
The way this story ends, you know, the last page of this volume is all of his, like, something happens when he's asleep. You know, Zack's there in it, and he's saying something who's being really creepy. I can't quite remember, but then, you know, his toys are speaking, and then all of a sudden, all of his toys speak in the background. They go, "Yes, sir," and it's like, "Yes, it's so cool."
Yeah, like Small Soldiers is going to come down.
Oh, what a film! Love that. Yeah. One thing that I did really enjoy as well was the kind of, I want to call it Ellie's origin, in terms of when, you know, the little Dodge person in, you know, as a female snuck into her head and stuff like that, you know, so that final issue, and it was all black and white. I thought that was really cool as well. But you have the history, then you learn about the mum and how like horrid she is.
She burns Rufus with a cigarette.
I know. Says there's like, oh, there's a home for those kind of people, and it's horrible. It's absolutely disgusting, and they very quickly write this person in such a way that within a few pages you're going, yeah, get rid of her. She's horrible. I don't like her. I hope she gets what she's got coming to her. And even though all this happened in such a short space, I found it very satisfying how it ended for her. She had her comeuppance. It was done right. It was good that Ellie didn't kill her, but I think there's still some responsibility that she would feel.
Yeah.
From it as well.
Again, in that scene where Dodge appeared behind her, after her
creepy. Yeah.
I
wanted more.
I have a question, Scott. Maybe you can answer. Who put the bottle with the little Dodge behind the mirror with her sex toy?
I assume it was Dodge originally.
What, back in the 70s?
Yeah.
Just in case one day I need this.
Yeah, I mean that's the only thing I can think of. It's never explained.
Oh.
As far as I know, as far as I can remember. But yeah, I just assumed it would have been Dodge in the 70s or whatever decade it was, just keeping it there for safekeepings.
See, I was thinking it was Ellie herself, but she obviously got older, she doesn't remember the keys and wouldn't remember. That's what I was thinking, Rendell or something. I wouldn't have thought Dodge.
Maybe that's right.
Ooh,
but who knows?
Yeah, maybe Ellie trapped it. Maybe Ellie took the memory out of her own head of Dodge and put it in there.
This calls for, you know what this calls for, guys? A little bit of interpretation. Yay, I haven't done one of that in a while.
The one thing I didn't like, though, is that little Dodge crawls into her ear rather than just using the key and opening her head and getting in.
Was the head key one of them?
Yeah, it's the head key and the
Nope.
wellhouse key, wasn't it?
No, it's the wellhouse key and the gender key. I got it there now.
Key. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so that explains then the boy-girl thing. I'm assuming the gender key.
Yeah, the gender key is in volume 1, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the sense. So obviously the whole Zack and
Dodge
thing that explains that then, I suppose.
Dodge.
Yeah.
So that's the sense. So what's the true form?
You'll never know.
Luke.
But you will. Just read on.
Yeah, because in the TV, I know Scott's going to glaze over, but in the TV show, it's not the gender key; it's the face key. So you put it under your chin, turn it,
What's
and you
the
can have
point?
any face you want.
Heart is raging. Look at that.
What's the point? What's the point of taking?
It's so Dodge can turn a certain character into her later on, so that character gets thrown in the bin instead of her. It's very clever.
So you take the concept of this brilliant story and then just go, yeah, we like it, but we don't like any of the keys, and we'll just do our own. Thanks.
It's very case trying to fit the actor. They want to change the actor and actress or whatever, and that's because I remember she was pretty hot, wasn't she? Dodge in the
Dodges, yeah.
I think when we talk about the TV show, I think we need to add a trigger warning at the bottom when Scott goes off
just
on
for
one.
myself, just a trigger warning.
And because in the TV show, Dodge and Tyler actually get a little bit freaky.
Grow up. Why? I'm not bothered about that, but why do they need to change so much from the story? Just they've made up keys, they've changed keys. What's the point? All of these keys were perfectly good. Just do the book.
It's not like there's anything wrong with the source material.
Just do the book. That's it.
But you could create some more keys. What's wrong with that? The mirror key is a great key to trap your enemy. It comes back in season 3. It's very important.
Yeah, I can imagine with a story like this, like you could essentially have unlimited keys, depending on what. Like this is what I was thinking. The concept is like if this was to continue on for like 100 issues, and at some point the writer finds himself in a bit of a rut, like how do I reverse this? And just have it, just make a key up. And do what I mean? There's so much you can do with this. Like,
you can make new keys. At the end of this book, it tells the story of how this girl made keys, doesn't it? It tells you that she made the gender key and she made the head key, and
at the end of the
how
trade,
she makes them. But I'm wondering if, because I haven't seen it in the book yet, can people take a key from a lock? Like if they're holding it, can someone take the key from them? Because in in the TV show, if a Locke is holding a key, you cannot physically take it from them. It burns
so-
you.
So Locke as in a person.
A
One of the
person,
Locke
yeah.
people.
If one of the Locks, so it only works for the 3 kids because the mum's not officially a Locke, she married in. So if they're holding a key, Dodge can't take the key from them.
Liam's chimed in. I'm with Scott. Shane is not selling the show for me.
Well, I don't work for Netflix, so I don't have to sell any shows.
let me ask you, Shane, because again, for all the stuff we've read this season, it seems like we've all watched the TV shows, or most of us have watched the TV shows, and the TV shows have been better than some of the books we've read, like Umbrella Academy and so forth. Where would you rank them? Like, are you putting the show ahead of the book, or the book ahead of the show? Like, where are you at?
For me, I'm putting them on
carefully.
I'm putting them on
par.
Yeah, I think the TV show, because I watched it first, so obviously I didn't know what they took and what they kept. But I think now reading these first 2 volumes, they have actually kept to the source material really well while making it their own. I think in the TV show, you do feel a little bit more sad when Mr. Ridgway is killed because you know the character more, like he's in it for a lot longer. He's not just at the start of the book. So they did well with his character. And the Dodge character is fantastic in the show.
Yeah, I've only watched season 1, to be fair, and I did really enjoy it. And tonally, it's completely different from the book, in my opinion. Yes, the material's still there, the story's still there, but it does feel like the TV show is for like a young adult teenager kind of crowd or whatever, but this is a little bit more darker than the TV show represents. Have you seen the show, Martin?
Yeah. No, it was never something I was interested in when I saw the trailer. But then when I knew we were going to read the book at some point, I wanted to hold off for the source material because the same what we're talking about here. Like, I've watched so many of the shows, and that has influenced my opinion on the book. I wanted a few of these to let the book speak for itself, and then I might go and watch the show after. I might check it out now we've talked about it because it has interested me a little bit. Only a little bit though, only a little bit. But yeah, I might check out the first episode, see if it's. Okay.
Has the show finished, Shane? Is it done? Okay.
Yeah, show's finished. But see, it's nice. It's a nice change of pace for me to have a book that I've read after I've watched a show that I've enjoyed as much as the show. Usually, I'm complaining at the book for not stretching stories out enough, but I feel like this book does a really good job with the characters. So that's why I'm putting them on par, because I'm enjoying both of them. Whereas The Boys, I enjoyed the TV show more. iZombie was completely different. Resident Alien wouldn't even recognize them as the same sort of book.
Yeah. Invincible.
Invincible, yeah. That we didn't. It's not fair to judge that.
We just glanced at Invincible.
The TV show was fantastic, and so it was nice to watch. I love the Umbrella Academy TV show, and I wasn't overly impressed with the book, but the TV show is flawless.
TV show's amazing.
So now to watch this show and read this book and have them on par for me, I think that's a win. For me, I'm winning. Scott's losing because Scott don't watch the show, but I'm winning.
Scott, is there any chance you will watch the show? Will you give
Can we get a live watch along episode of the Nerd and make Scott watch?
And like a reaction, just me I'll just be effing and blinding the whole time, being like, "What the hell? What is going on?
That's
what's
not
this?
a key.
Who's this guy? That's not a bloody key. Get that off." Yeah. If people want that, then yeah, I'll do it. I don't mind. But yeah, it'll take a lot of time.
We could do some DVD commentaries. We can do some episode commentaries.
They'll just be aggressive.
Give us a little 1-minute review.
Scott's
Instagram
aggressive.
or something.
Yeah, Scott's aggressive commentaries.
You'll have to get the bleeper sound ready. To bleep all the F-bombs and stuff. Yeah.
Beep, 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 beep. It'll just sound like Morse code eventually, to be honest. The only other thing, story-wise, I wanted to really touch on, and kind of art-wise, see I'm sneaking it in, was, in the shower scene where Ellie is just sitting there in her clothes and she's just looking like dead behind the eyes, and she's like that. When we talked about facial expressions and stuff earlier, you could see that so much, that she was just like glazed over. She was gone. She was in like deep thought, really like in turmoil and just struggling. And I really loved that because of just how intense it looked and just how much Dodge just didn't give a shit.
Just destroyed her, broke her down to a core, pretty much.
Yep.
Yeah, mentally. I mean, she had her priorities, obviously, for her son and stuff, and like he basically just broke her down. And as a reader, it's horrible to see. But that's what I wanted to see with the rest of the characters, to be honest, from Zack. But yeah, it was. I like Ellie a lot, but part of me kind of does agree with her mum that she was quite weak. But then, what could she really have done? It's a tough one. It'd be interesting to see how she. Well, I'm assuming she no longer plays a part because she doesn't know anything. He took away the memory of Zack and Luke, and she really now believes that Zack is her actual nephew.
Cousin. Oh yeah, cousin nephew. Yeah.
So like, she's just going to be there making him cakes and buns and dinners at the next. You know what I mean? Like she's looking after him, so it'll be interesting to see.
See a massive difference from the show because Ellie still remembers the keys in the show because there's a key in the show that unlocks your adult memories of magic. So she's used that they all used that before they turned 18 in the TV show. So she still remembers, but she still has to put up with Dodge in the show. Her character is really good in the show.
Sorry, I have to go with Scott on this. Doesn't that contradict like part of the foundation of what it is? You're not supposed to remember it as an adult.
No, you're not. That's why the kids make a key. The Lockwood kids make a key so that they can still remember magic because their dad remembered magic. That's why he gave Kinsey the Anywhere key bracelet.
Is it in the book?
Is it in the book, though?
The Anywhere book.
Is?
All right. I've been too positive, so I do have to give a negative to this book. And the Duncan relationship with his boyfriend. First off, his boyfriend was gross, disgusting. This gross, pervy old man.
Hey, don't yuck his yum.
I will 100% yucky. Yeah, I'm not even saying that. I can't repeat that. But no, I thought that was gross. But I also don't think it was needed. The whole homophobic thing in the bar. It's like,
what was that all about?
That was a bit late for that ball to be in a comic book. This isn't the 80s. This isn't a Stephen King book. You don't need that anymore. And the fact that it was two burly, clearly lesbian women doing it was even more off-putting. And then they literally just had that so they could be out the house to run him over when Dodge showed up.
But this is the thing. I agree with you. Like I can't think creatively why that was put in there. Duncan could have been living on his own, doing his arts class, whatever, and Zack came through the door and he didn't have to have the boyfriend, and like I say, these two women in the bar beat them up because they were gay. It didn't make any creative sense why it was there.
No, he could have had a normal boyfriend. He still could have scared him off outside, and it could have just been a passing car that ran him over. Like, you can still have these things happen without that scene.
You're right.
My boyfriend was just a dirty old man.
Brian was gross looking, like a wee old man in a suit. Like, make him handsome, make him. Yeah.
I had no issue with the homophobic side of things when it was in the bar, because it felt like it was just, like a little tidbit. So I just said, "Oh, okay, you've done that. Let's move on." But then when it dragged out to the home, and I thought, "Oh, come on, now it's getting silly." Then I felt like it was irritating me, where I felt like I was being force-fed this.
I would have been fine with it had it just been the words, but the fact that they got physical over it, and it's like, do you know how little that actually happened? It doesn't need to be in the book. You could have just had them making the remarks, because that does happen. People sit at another table and they make remarks when they see you. That's fine. Absolutely fine. You're entitled to do that. And it would have made them uncomfortable in the bar. That could have been absolutely fine. But for it to get physical and then for them to follow them home, it was just a bit much. It was like, oh my God, come on now.
Took it a bit too far.
I think it would have been a bit more in context as well if you actually took the two burly women out of it and made it maybe a couple of elderly yokels.
Or a couple of young blokes, or
it would have just sort of been a very quick thing just to touch upon it and then move on. It just was way too drawn out.
It was a weird inclusion for this story. I don't see why it's there, to be honest.
Yeah, same. I agree. You guys ready for thoughts and scores? It's that time. It's gone quick for me. This hour has gone very quick, and I'm very happy about that. But yeah, time for our thought and scores. So, everyone in the chat, if you've been watching along and you read the book and you want to give a score, just chuck it in the chat. You don't need to give a reason if you don't want to. Just say 10 out of 10. That's fine.
Not trying to influence your score in any way, are you, Scott?
No, not at all. So from our community WhatsApp group, we had a message earlier on from Pete from Triple G Comics. He read along. He couldn't make it tonight, and he wanted to give it a 9 out of 10. So we've noted that down. If you want to join the group, just give us a message, put something in the comments of the video, and we'll send you the link over. You can join the group. More than welcome. But for everyone else in the chat who's read along, give us your score. But for now, we'll start with Martin, please.
I'm volume 1. I'll start with volume 1 because I've had to read Double Bubble this time. Volume 1 would have been a 9 for me because I loved it. It was a great book. But that's influenced the foundation of my opinion on this volume. I am on the same vibe. I did have a slight issue with the Zack character, and the homophobic scene was quite irritating, but it's not going to lower my score that much because I did enjoy this. I want more from this. The artwork was fantastic. It's very consistent throughout both volumes. I enjoyed all the characters. I like the premise of the keys, and I want to know more. I want to know what other keys there are. I want to know how this story evolves. So if I'm going for a 9 for volume 1, I'm going to have to give this an 8.5. Only ever so slightly going down for those two little bits.
Totally justified, I think. Nice one. Yeah, good score. Phil?
Yeah, pretty much going to echo the same as Martin. I have 2 scores written down here, though. I'm just debating what one to pick from because I was torn between the 2. Volume 1, for me, is a far better story. I think, again, when you have the Sam Lesser character kind of being what's the word, like manipulated or whatever to do the things he was doing, that was more creepy and more kind of threatening and menacing than this volume. I like the Ridgeway stuff. I like the Ellie stuff at the start, at the end, the stuff in between where they're kind of finding the key and establishing what it does, and like, it was all really cool. I just feel like maybe there was a bit too much of that. And again, as Martin mentioned, that the kind of homophobic attack for some reason just felt really out of place. Like, I don't know why it was there. There was no creative reason to have it, other than, I think Liam mentioned there, he wanted Duncan a reason to come home. But there's a million one different ways you could do that, in my opinion. So I am lower my score from volume 1 because volume 1's the same. I don't think I gave it 9 last time, but after my second read, I would give volume 1 a 9. And this gets an 8. I really enjoy the whole story, the concept, and I'm looking forward to reading on. I hope Dodge returns because she's so much more cooler and scarier than Zack. Zack's just a wee plonker with his wee lip ring. Don't, if you have lip rings, don't be offended. I didn't like the look of him. His wee goatee and stuff. He's horrendous looking. Yeah.
For a bit of context, I guess, because this is volume 2 and this is sequels month, I just want to let you know that we read volume 1 on season 1, and it was like joint second on our leaderboard for season 1, and it had a 9 out of 10. So yeah, Martin, you're bang on with your score for volume 1. Phil, you are too. But yeah, Shane, I'm interested to see what you think now.
I did really love it. Like I said, I really love the TV show. So to find a comic book that matches that enjoyment for me is rare. And I do really enjoy this and I want to read on. I am actually looking at getting the slipcase trades. Nice. Not the big one because I don't have the space, but I can get a nice little slipcase. The homophobic stuff, I don't need that in my books. If it's done correctly, then it's absolutely fine. Had it just been a throwaway line at the bar, then that's more natural, and that's what most people have experienced, is what I'll say. But the physical violence and the being followed home, it just felt incredibly extreme. And had that been Dodge, maybe manipulating these people to do it, then maybe. But it was just put in there for no reason, and I can't forgive that. The beginning, I was a little bit, but once the book started, I really enjoyed it. I do feel sorry for Lizzie. It's just such a shame what's happening to her. The characters are great. The key in this book is probably one of my favorites. I love the way it's used. I love looking inside people's heads. I want to look inside everyone's head now. The next volume needs to look in everyone's heads.
If you know, like my head and Scott's head and Martin's head, that'll be scary.
Yeah, actually, I stay away from. Actually, yeah, no. We'll stop it at this point. And I love the art. The faces are fantastic. My big gripe with most artists is the faces, and in this book, I think they're done fantastically well. I cannot remember what I scored volume 1, so it has no bearing on my score for this book, but I'm going to give this one an 8.5.
Great. Well, I'll just go on to mine. So, volume 1 was very much like, hey, this is the concept we have. Let's go ahead and hit you with a bunch of keys to get you really interested in the story. That's how I felt with it anyway. Volume 2 then slows right down and just focuses really on one key. Yeah, we see the anywhere key, and we do see a little bit of some of the other little keys, but the main focus was the head key. Fantastic concept. It was so good that they could use one key to give you a whole 6-issue story, essentially. I thought it was really well done. The art, fantastically consistent. But yeah, it wasn't quite as book gripping as volume 1 with the whole Sam Lesser stuff. But enjoyed it very much nonetheless. Is my second read on this. I just love it, and the fact that I'm picking stuff up new things every time I read it. I'm just having such a good time with it, and I think this story will always hold a fantastic place in my heart. I can't remember what I gave it season 1 anyway. It was probably really high, but I am pretty much matching the rest of you apart from Phil, and I'm also giving it an 8.5.
Nice.
There we go. So we had that 9 from Pete in our WhatsApp group, and tonight we've had a score from Liam as well. So this is what he said. So I read both volumes today as I couldn't remember volume 1, which I originally gave a 7.5. Shockingly, it's easily at least an 8.5. Reading in quick succession, it's easy to see volume 1 is better. Volume 2 gets 7.5. Who knows? Maybe this will bump up if I reread in the future too. Who knows? But yeah, thank you very much. We got those 2 scores. Those combined together gives us an 8.25. So that's really close to all of our scores. Combining that with Phil's 8 and Shane, Martin, and my 8.5, we get a total of 8.4.
Cool.
So, and we will also be looking at the sequel leaderboard as well, so do hang around for that. But where does it land on our current leaderboard? Where does Volume 2 land? Joint 4th place with Blackest Night, bumping off Fantastic Four full circle, so it's on our top 10. There we go. Let's go ahead and have a look at the rest of the leaderboard there. Sweet. Yeah, all looking good. So I've done the math, a very quick math to see how this season, this is a brand new entry now to the sequels leaderboard, because it's now volume 2, so it now goes onto the leaderboard. So volume 1 got a 9, this got an 8.4. So that means as an average, this season, this series is now on 8.7. So where does this land on our sequel leaderboard? It's top spot. Number 1 of the sequel leaderboard, pushing down Batman New 52 issues 1 to 12 that we've read so far, and Saga issues 1 to 12 that we've read so far, both at 8.5, pushing everything down and pushing, unfortunately, Once and Future off of this little leaderboard here. And there's the rest for you if you want to see as well. Oh my god! I didn't expect it to do that well, but
very interesting. Very interesting.
But that's it. There's only one more thing now to do, and that's to find out what we got coming up next week. But I'm going to tell you first that tomorrow's video on the Nerd Herd channel, we've got Kev. He's done a draw along, and it's very cool. Shane, you'll love his little chibi. It is how to draw Wonder Woman. Look at that! It's such a great pose as well.
His little shirt and his tiara.
I know, it's amazing. Really good. Really, really good. But there we go. Right. It is now time for us. Wait there. Amy, my lovely fiance, has managed to comment. She's in utter shock and disbelief that Once and Future has been taken off the sequels leaderboard. Put Once and Future back on, she said.
Well,
there we go.
you may be in luck, Amy.
Yeah. Let's see what's coming up next week, shall we? Here we go. Yes, baby. Shane, what we got coming up is your pick.
I've picked Once and Future Volume 3. I want to see what Duncan's up to.
Mate, such a fantastic story. It's called The Parliament of Magpies, Volume 3, and I'm very much looking forward to getting onto that. I'm so glad I turned you on to that story.
So am I. And hopefully it gets back up on the sequels leaderboard next week.
Yeah, if it does, you know what falls off, don't you?
What?
I hit Fairyland.
Ooh. Dun, dun, dun.
You're torn now. Is your score going to be skewed next week? Are you going to...
No, I'm
Did you
still going to
keep-
score it fairly if I enjoy the book.
Good
I'm
man.
just pleased we're going to be
man.
blessed with some beautiful Dan Moore artwork next week.
Yes. Kieran Gillen, Dan Mora, and my favourite colourist, Tamara Bonvillain. And my favourite surname, to be honest, is amazing.
Yeah, favorite named colours, definitely.
Yeah, that's awesome. But yeah, so I cannot wait for that. Please also keep in mind that next week it is our Herd's Choice pick. So do have a think this week for what you'd like to choose for Herd's Choice. Maybe you could choose a sequel and keep up to sequels month, but you can choose whatever you want if you want. But yeah, that's it from us. One more thing to do. Okay, waves out.
Bye. Bye, everyone. Love you.